Emma Carter pressed her small body against the cold metal wall of the ventilation shaft. She had been crawling through the narrow passages of Threshold Station for nearly 20 minutes, following a strange sound that nobody else seemed to hear. The sound was low and deep, like a sad song played on the lowest notes of an instrument she had never heard before. At 12 years old, Emma was small for her age, which made it easy for her to slip through places where adults could never fit. Her brown hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and her clothes were covered in dust from the forgotten corners of the station. She loved exploring, even though her father told her 100 times to stay in the safe zones. Threshold Station was huge, a massive wheel spinning in space where humans and aliens lived and worked together. Emma's father, Ben Carter, was an engineer who fixed broken machines in the lower levels. They had moved here 2 years ago after Emma's mother died. Life on the station was supposed to be exciting, a new start in a galaxy full of wonders. But most days Emma felt lonely. The other human kids on the station thought she was weird. They stayed in the bright, clean areas where families lived, playing games on their tablets and watching entertainment streams from Earth. Emma wanted more than that. She wanted to see real aliens, learn about other worlds, and find adventures in the dark corners where nobody else dared to go. The humming sound grew louder. Emma reached the end of the ventilation shaft and looked down through a metal grate. Her breath caught in her throat. Below her was Cargo Bay 17, a massive space that had been abandoned years ago. The lights were dim and most of the bay was filled with old shipping containers covered in dust, but in the far corner, something moved. Emma carefully removed the grate, making sure not to make noise. She lowered herself down onto a stack of containers and climbed down to the floor. Her heart was beating fast. The station's database said Cargo Bay 17 was empty, sealed off because of radiation contamination. But Emma had checked the radiation levels herself, using a scanner she borrowed from her father's toolbox. There was no radiation. Someone had lied about this place. She moved between the containers, following the sound. The humming was definitely coming from something alive. As she got closer, Emma noticed a blue glow coming from the darkest corner of the bay. She took out her small flashlight and pointed it forward. What she saw made her freeze in place. A creature sat in the shadows, so large that Emma had to tilt her head back to see all of it. It was easily 20 feet tall, with a body covered in thick scales that shimmered like oil on water, reflecting colors that seemed impossible. The creature had 6 limbs, each one as thick as a tree trunk, ending in claws that looked like they could tear through metal. Its head was massive, with 3 eyes that glowed dimly in the darkness. 2 eyes were on the front of its face and 1 was in the center of its forehead. Heavy chains wrapped around the creature's body, bolted into the floor and walls. Around its neck was a thick collar that pulsed with red light. The creature's breathing was slow and labored, each breath rattling in its chest. One of its 6 limbs was bent at a wrong angle, clearly broken. Blue liquid, probably blood, seeped from cracks in its scales and pooled on the floor beneath it. Emma should have been terrified. Every instinct told her to run. This was clearly a dangerous creature, something that could kill her without effort. But as she looked into those 3 dimming eyes, she did not see a monster. She saw pain. She saw exhaustion. She saw something that was suffering and alone. The creature noticed her. Its middle eye focused on Emma, and the humming sound stopped. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Emma waited for it to roar, to struggle against its chains, to do something violent. But it did neither. Instead, the creature just watched her with what looked like curiosity. Emma took a careful step forward. The creature did not move. She took another step, then another. When she was close enough to touch the chains, she finally spoke in a whisper. "Hello," she said. "I'm Emma. Are you okay?" It was a stupid question. Obviously, the creature was not okay. But Emma did not know what else to say. The creature's eyes brightened slightly, and it made a low rumbling sound from deep in its chest. Not aggressive, just acknowledgement that it heard her. Emma walked around the creature slowly, examining the chains and the collar. She had seen pictures of these collars before in her studies about the Galactic Coalition. They were suppression devices, used to keep dangerous prisoners weak and unable to use their natural abilities. The red pulse meant it was active, constantly draining the creature's strength. The broken limb was worse up close. Bone stuck out through the scales and the wound had become infected. Emma felt anger rise in her chest. Someone had put this creature here and left it to die slowly. No food, no water. No medical care, just chains and darkness and pain. She noticed a small data panel on the wall near the chains. Using her tablet, Emma hacked into it easily. The station's security was not very good in the abandoned sections. Information flooded her screen. The creature was called a Vexenari, a species from a race that went extinct 3,000 years ago. This one was named Krator. A salvage ship had found it drifting in space inside an old warship. The Galactic Council had ordered it to be destroyed, but Station Commander Helen Brooks was keeping it alive while different alien factions argued about what to do with it. Emma read the medical reports. Nobody had come to feed Krator in 6 days. The station's alien medical staff refused to treat it because Vexenari were legendary war beasts, creatures of myth that scared even the bravest species. The few humans on the medical team said they did not know how to treat alien biology. It was all excuses. They were leaving Krator here to die because they were afraid. Emma looked back at the massive creature. Krator was watching her, those 3 eyes focused and alert despite the pain it must be feeling. Emma made a decision in that moment, one that would change her life forever. "I'm going to help you," she said firmly. "I don't care what anyone says. Nobody deserves to be left alone like this." Krator's eyes brightened a little more, and the creature made that rumbling sound again, deeper this time, almost like a purr. Emma smiled. She did not know how she was going to help a 20-foot-tall alien war beast, but she would find a way. She checked her watch. Her father would be home from work in an hour, and he would be angry if she was not there. Emma looked at Krator one more time. "I have to go now, but I'll come back tomorrow. I promise. I'll bring food and medicine. Just hold on, okay?" The creature lowered its massive head slightly, almost like a nod. Emma felt tears in her eyes but blinked them away. She was not going to cry. She was going to be strong, like the creature in front of her was being strong despite everything. Emma climbed back up to the ventilation shaft, replaced the grate, and crawled back through the passages toward the residential zone. As she moved through the darkness, she was already planning. She would need food, medical supplies, and information about Vexenari biology. She would have to steal some things and lie to others. Her father would be furious if he found out, but Emma did not care. She had found something more important than rules or safety. She had found someone who needed her, and she was not going to let them down. Emma returned to Cargo Bay 17 the next evening with a backpack full of supplies. She had stolen protein bars from the commissary, medical supplies from the clinic where her father's friend worked, and a container of water from the maintenance supply closet. It was not much, but it was a start. Krator was exactly where she had left him, still chained in the dark corner. But when Emma dropped down from the ventilation shaft, the creature's 3 eyes immediately locked onto her. There was recognition there, and something that looked almost like relief. "I told you I'd come back," Emma said, walking toward the massive alien without fear. She opened her backpack and pulled out the protein bars. They were designed for humans, but Emma hoped they would at least give Krator some energy. She unwrapped one and held it up toward the creature's massive head. Krator lowered his head slowly, sniffed the food, and then carefully took it from Emma's hand with teeth that could have bitten her arm off. The war beast chewed slowly, as if eating caused pain. Emma realized that Krator probably had not eaten anything in days, maybe weeks. She unwrapped 3 more bars and fed them to him one at a time. Then she poured water into a metal bowl she had brought and placed it within reach. Krator drank deeply, the water disappearing in seconds. With the immediate needs handled, Emma turned her attention to the broken limb. She had researched Vexenari biology as much as she could in the station's database. There was not much information since the species was supposed to be extinct, but she found some old military reports. Vexenari had incredible healing abilities, but those abilities required energy and proper conditions. Starvation and the suppression collar were stopping Krator from healing naturally. Emma could not remove the collar without accessing the station's security system, which was impossible for her. But she could treat the wounds and help the creature regain strength. She pulled out antiseptic spray and bandages from her backpack. "This might hurt," she warned, "but I need to clean your wounds." Krator rumbled softly and stayed completely still. Emma climbed onto some nearby debris to reach the broken limb. Up close, the injury was horrifying. She could see where bone had broken through the scales and the surrounding flesh was swollen and discolored. Emma swallowed hard and got to work. She sprayed antiseptic on the wound and Krator made a low sound of pain but did not pull away. Emma worked carefully, cleaning away dried blood and infection as best she could. Then she wrapped the limb in bandages. Even though she knew they were far too small for the massive injury, it was better than nothing. For the next hour, Emma tended to every visible wound on Crater's body. There were dozens of them, cracks in the scales where blue blood oozed out, burns from the suppression collar, and signs of rough treatment during capture. Each injury made Emma angrier. This creature had done nothing to deserve such cruelty. When she finished, Emma sat down on the floor next to one of Crater's massive limbs. She was tired and her hands were stained with blue blood, but she felt good. She had done something that mattered. "I wish you could talk," Emma said. "I want to know your story. Who are you really? Where did you come from?" Crater's 3 eyes focused on her. The creature made a series of sounds, different tones and pitches that almost sounded like language. Emma listened carefully, trying to understand. When Crater finished, he looked at her expectantly. "I don't understand," Emma admitted, "but maybe we can figure out another way to communicate." She pulled out her tablet and showed it to Crater. On the screen was a simple picture of a star. Emma pointed at it and said, "Star, do you know what this is?" Crater studied the tablet for a moment, then lifted one massive claw. With surprising care, the creature pointed at the screen, then at himself, then at the ceiling of the cargo bay as if pointing at space beyond. "You came from the stars," Emma said. "Yes, I know that. But which star? Where is your home?" Crater made a frustrated sound. He looked around the cargo bay, then started dragging his claw through the dust on the floor. Emma watched in amazement as the creature drew symbols, complex patterns that looked like writing. She took pictures with her tablet, her hands shaking with excitement. "You can write. You're not just an animal. You're intelligent, like humans or any other species." Crater nodded, a very human gesture that made Emma smile. She ran a search on her tablet, comparing the symbols to known alien languages. After several minutes, she found a match. It was ancient Vexnari script, from before the species went extinct. The symbols were in the station's historical database, part of old academic research. Using the translation program, Emma started to piece together what Crater had written. The message was simple but powerful. "Alone, last one. Home gone." Emma felt her heart break. Crater was not just injured and imprisoned. He was the last of his kind, waking up in a galaxy that had forgotten him and now wanted him dead. She reached out and placed her small hand on his massive scaled limb. "You're not alone anymore," she said. "I'm here. I'm your friend." Crater lowered his head until it was level with Emma. She could see her reflection in those 3 glowing eyes. The creature rumbled softly, and Emma felt the vibration in her chest. It was a sound of gratitude, of connection. In that moment, Emma knew she had made the right choice. Over the next week, Emma visited Crater every day. She brought more food, better medical supplies, and spent hours talking to him. She told him about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about her mother who had died and how much she missed her. She told him her dreams of exploring the galaxy and making a difference. Crater listened to everything. Through drawings in the dust and careful gestures, he told Emma his own story. He had been a guardian of his people, a war prince tasked with protecting the Vexnari homeworld. But there had been a betrayal, a war that destroyed everything. His people had put him in stasis, hoping he would wake when it was safe to return. But when he woke, 3,000 years had passed. His homeworld was gone. His people were dead. He was the last. Emma cried when she understood the full tragedy of Crater's story. She held onto his claw and promised him that she would find a way to help. She did not know how, but she would not let him die alone in this dark cargo bay. The changes in Crater were remarkable. The food and medical care were helping, but Emma suspected something else was at work. The creature's eyes were brighter now. His wounds were healing faster than they should, even with the suppression collar active. The broken limb was starting to set properly and the swelling was going down. One evening, Lisa Morgan found Emma in the maintenance tunnels. Lisa was a nurse in her 30s who worked with Emma's father sometimes. She was kind and had always treated Emma with respect, not like a child. "Emma, your father is worried about you," Lisa said. "He says you've been disappearing every night." "Where do you go?" Emma hesitated. She had kept Crater a secret from everyone, even her father. But looking at Lisa's concerned face, she made a decision. She needed help and she trusted Lisa. "Can you keep a secret?" Emma asked. "A really big secret?" Lisa nodded slowly. Of course, Emma led Lisa to Cargo Bay 17. When the nurse saw Crater for the first time, she gasped and stepped back. But Emma held her hand and walked her forward, showing her how gentle the massive creature was, how intelligent and aware. "This is Crater," Emma said. "He's my friend, and he needs our help." Lisa stared at the war beast, at the chains in the collar, at the wounds that Emma had been tending. Her face went through several emotions: fear, surprise, and finally anger. "They just left him here to die," Lisa said quietly. "I heard rumors about a Vexnari on the station, but I thought it was already dead." "They want him dead," Emma said. "But I won't let that happen. Will you help me?" Lisa looked at Emma, then at Crater, then back at Emma. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, I'll help you. But Emma, you need to know something. I overheard Commander Brooks talking today. They're planning to execute him in 5 days. We don't have much time." Emma felt cold fear wash over her. 5 days. That was not enough time to figure out a plan. She looked at Crater, and the creature looked back at her with those 3 eyes. He knew something was wrong. "Then we need to work fast," Emma said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "We need to find a way to save him." Lisa squeezed Emma's shoulder. "We will, together." Emma sat at her desk in the small apartment she shared with her father, staring at her tablet screen. It was past midnight, but she could not sleep. Lisa's words kept echoing in her mind. 5 days. 5 days until they killed Crater. She had been researching for hours, looking for any loophole, any regulation that might save him. The Galactic Coalition had laws about the treatment of sentient beings, but those laws only applied to recognized species. Since the Vexnari were officially extinct, Crater had no legal protection. He was classified as salvage, no different than an old machine found drifting in space. Emma's fingers flew across the tablet, diving deeper into the station's databases. She had learned basic hacking from Jake Phillips, a young cargo handler who worked on the docks. Jake was 19 and had always been nice to Emma, teaching her tricks about station systems when he had free time. She had not told him about Crater yet, but she was running out of options. She might need his help soon. As Emma searched through classified files she should not have access to, something caught her attention. The order to execute Crater had not come from the Galactic Council directly. It had come from a specific department, one controlled by a species called the Torvan hierarchy. Emma frowned. Why would the Torvan care about one ancient war beast? She dug deeper, following connections between files. The Torvan had been the ones pushing hardest for Crater's execution. They had sent 3 different messages to Commander Brooks, each one more insistent than the last. They claimed the Vexnari was too dangerous to keep alive, that it should be destroyed immediately for the safety of the station. But something did not add up. If Crater was so dangerous, why was he kept in a basic cargo bay with only chains holding him? Why not use a proper prison cell with energy barriers? Why not send soldiers to guard him? Emma created a new search, looking for any historical connection between the Torvan and the Vexnari. What she found made her blood run cold. 3,000 years ago, the Torvan and the Vexnari had been allies. They had fought together in a war against a hostile coalition. But according to ancient records Emma discovered in the historical archives, something had gone wrong. The Vexnari had possessed advanced biotechnology, the ability to create living ships and incredible weapons through genetic engineering. The Torvan had wanted access to these secrets. When the Vexnari refused to share, tensions grew. Then Emma found a file that had been buried deep in the archives, marked as historical speculation by an alien researcher who had died 50 years ago. The researcher claimed that the Torvan had orchestrated the Vexnari genocide. They had spread lies about the Vexnari, turned other species against them, and manipulated galactic politics until war became inevitable. When the Vexnari were destroyed, the Torvan had covered their tracks, making it look like the extinction was a tragic consequence of a necessary conflict. Emma sat back in her chair, her mind racing. If this was true, then the Torvan had committed one of the greatest crimes in galactic history. And now, with Crater's discovery, they had a problem. If the last Vexnari survived, if he remembered the truth about what happened, he could expose them. Even worse, Vexnari biotechnology was encoded in their DNA. If Crater lived, scientists could study him, maybe even find a way to bring his species back. The Torvan could not allow that. They needed Crater dead. and they needed it to look like a standard procedure so nobody would ask questions. Emma grabbed her jacket and ran out of the apartment. Her father was working a night shift, so she did not have to explain where she was going. She made her way through the station's corridors toward the cargo docks where Jake worked. She found him in loading bay 6, operating a cargo mover to stack containers. When he saw Emma, he powered down the machine and climbed out. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "It's really late." "Jake, I need your help," Emma said breathlessly. "It's important." "Life or death important?" Jake's expression turned serious. He was tall and thin, with messy blonde hair and kind eyes. Emma had always liked him because he treated her like an equal, not like a kid. "Okay," he said. "Tell me what's going on." Emma told him everything. About Krator, about the conspiracy she had discovered, about the execution scheduled in 5 days. Jake listened without interrupting, his face growing more shocked with every detail. When she finished, Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I want to meet him. This Krator, can you take me to him?" Emma nodded. Together they made their way to Cargo Bay 17. When Jake saw the massive war beast, he froze just like Lisa had. But Emma took his hand and led him forward. Krator watched them approach with his 3 glowing eyes, tilting his head curiously at the newcomer. "Krator, this is Jake," Emma said. "He's a friend. He's going to help us." Krator rumbled softly, a sound Jake felt in his chest. The young man approached slowly, staring up at the chained creature in wonder. "He's beautiful," Jake whispered. "Not a monster at all. How could anyone want to kill him?" "Because they're afraid of the truth," Emma said. She explained her theory about the Torvin conspiracy. Jake nodded slowly. "That makes sense. I've delivered cargo to Torvin ships before. They're manipulative, always working angles, always trying to control things. If they did what you think they did, they would do anything to cover it up." He turned to Emma. "So what's the plan? We can't just ask them nicely to let him go." "We need to get him off the station," Emma said. "Help him escape to somewhere the Galactic Coalition can't reach. The Outer Rim colonies, maybe, where independent humans have settlements." "That's not going to be easy," Jake said. "We would need a ship, fuel, supplies, and a way to get past station security. Plus, we would need to remove that collar." He pointed at the suppression device around Krator's neck. "That thing is linked to the main security computer. If we try to remove it by force, it will alert every guard on the station." "Can you hack the security system?" Emma asked. "Me? No way. That's way beyond my skill level. But I know someone who might be able to help. There's a woman who works in the tech bay. Name is Katie Ross. She's a genius with computers. Used to work for military intelligence before she came to the station. She owes me a favor. Will she help?" Emma asked hopefully. "I don't know," Jake admitted. "But I can ask. In the meantime, we need to start planning. If we're really going to do this, we need to be smart about it. One mistake and we all end up in a coalition prison." Over the next 3 days, Emma, Jake, and Lisa formed a plan. Katie Ross agreed to help after Jake brought her to meet Krator. The tech specialist was a quiet woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and quick hands. She studied the suppression collar for an hour. Before announcing she could disable it, but only from the main security terminal in the station's control center. "That's a problem," Katie said. "The control center is guarded and only security personnel are allowed in. Plus, the Torvin have an agent watching the systems. His name is Velkar and he's paranoid about everything. He'll notice if someone accesses the collar controls." "What if we create a distraction?" Lisa suggested. "Something big enough that security has to respond and the Torvin agent is forced to leave his post?" "That could work," Katie agreed. "But it would have to be a serious emergency. Something that looks real." "I can trigger a false medical emergency in the residential sector," Lisa said. "Make it look like a disease outbreak. That would require all medical and security staff to respond. But I would need help from someone in the medical system to make it convincing." Emma's father, Ben Carter, had been the hardest person to bring into the plan. When Emma finally told him what she had been doing, he was furious. They had the biggest fight of Emma's life, with Ben shouting about danger and rules and responsibility. But then Emma took him to meet Krator. Ben Carter stood in Cargo Bay 17 looking at the massive chained creature his daughter had been sneaking off to help. He saw the intelligence in those 3 eyes, saw the careful way the war beast interacted with Emma, saw the trust between them. Ben was an engineer, a practical man, but he was also a father who had lost his wife. He understood loss and loneliness better than most. 5 days, Ben said quietly. They're going to kill him in 5 days. Less than that now, Emma said. 2 days. We have 2 days to save him. Ben looked at his daughter, at the determination in her young face, at the courage that reminded him so much of her mother. He sighed deeply. Your mother would have done the same thing, he said. She never could walk away from someone who needed help. I guess you take after her. He turned to the group. All right, I'm in. What do you need me to do? With Ben's help, the plan came together. He would use his engineering access to map escape routes through the maintenance tunnels. Jake would prepare a cargo shuttle and make sure it was fueled and ready. Lisa would create the medical distraction. Katie would hack the security system to disable the collar. And Emma would be the one to free Krator and guide him to the shuttle. It was risky. It was dangerous. They could all end up in prison if they were caught. But as Emma looked around at the group of humans who had come together to save one ancient alien, she felt hope for the first time in days. Tomorrow night, Ben said. We do this tomorrow night before they move up the execution. Everyone clear on their roles? They all nodded. Emma walked over to Krator and placed her hand on his massive claw. Tomorrow you're going to be free, she promised. The next evening came too quickly. Emma stood in her apartment checking her small backpack one more time. She had a basic medical kit, a portable water container, and her tablet with the station maps Ben had uploaded. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to stay calm. Krator needed her to be brave. Ben hugged her tightly before they left. Stay close to the walls and the tunnels. If anything goes wrong, you run. Forget about the plan. Forget about everything else. You just run and hide. Understand? Dad, I'll be fine. Emma. His voice was firm. Promise me. If things go bad, you save yourself first. Emma wanted to argue, but she saw the fear in her father's eyes. She nodded. I promise. They left the apartment separately. Ben headed to the engineering section to begin his part of the plan. Emma made her way through the residential corridors toward the medical sector, where she would meet Lisa. The station felt different tonight. The normal sounds of people talking and laughing seemed distant. Emma noticed more security guards than usual walking the corridors. Her heart sank. Did they know something? Had the plan been discovered? She reached the medical sector and found Lisa in a small storage room, preparing several syringes filled with harmless chemicals that would mimic the symptoms of a serious illness. Lisa looked up and gave Emma a tight smile. Katie just confirmed she's in position near the control center, Lisa said. Jake has the shuttle ready in docking bay 12. Your father is waiting in the maintenance hub. We're all set. What about the extra security guards? Emma asked. I noticed that too. Felkar, the Torvin agent, must have increased patrols. He's suspicious about something. Lisa checked her watch. But it's too late to change the plan now. We start in 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like hours. Emma sat on a supply crate trying to control her breathing. She thought about Krator, alone in that dark cargo bay, waiting for freedom or death. She thought about her mother, who had always told her to stand up for what was right, even when it was hard. Lisa's watch beeped. Time, she said. She picked up her medical bag and walked toward the door. See you on the other side, Emma. Good luck, Emma whispered. Lisa left the storage room and headed toward the residential sector. Emma waited exactly 3 minutes, counting each second in her head, then left through a side corridor. She made her way to a maintenance access panel and climbed inside. The tunnels here were wider than the ventilation shafts she usually used, big enough for her to walk hunched over. She moved through the passages, following the route Ben had mapped. Behind her, she heard alarms start to blare. Lisa had triggered the medical emergency. Emma smiled grimly. The plan was in motion now. No turning back. The tunnels were dark and hot. Emma used her flashlight sparingly, not wanting to attract attention if anyone was monitoring the maintenance systems. She could hear sounds from the station through the metal walls. Running feet, shouting voices, the hiss of emergency doors sealing sections. After 15 minutes of crawling and climbing, Emma reached the access panel above Cargo Bay 17. She opened it carefully and looked down. The bay was empty except for Krator, still chained in his corner. The creature's 3 eyes found her immediately, glowing with anticipation. Emma dropped down into the bay and ran to Krator. We're getting you out of here, she said, pulling out her tablet. Katie is going to disable your collar any minute now. When that happens, you need to break these chains and follow me. Can you do that? Krator nodded, a very human gesture he had learned from Emma. His eyes were brighter than she had ever seen them, filled with hope and determination. Emma's tablet beeped. A message from Katie. Accessing collar controls now. Stand by. Emma waited, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Seconds passed. Then a minute. The red light on Krator's collar continued to pulse. Emma's hands started to sweat. What was taking so long? Another message appeared. Velkar is still at his station. Can't access controls without alerting him. Need more time. Emma felt panic rising. They did not have more time. The medical emergency would only distract security for so long. She typed back, how much time? 10 minutes minimum. Maybe more. 10 minutes was an eternity. Emma looked at Krator, saw the hope fading from his eyes as he realized something was wrong. She made a decision. Change of plans, she typed to Katie. Disable the collar in exactly 5 minutes. I don't care if Velkar notices. Just do it. Emma, that's crazy. Security will come running, I know. 5 minutes. Trust me. Emma put away her tablet and looked up at Krator. Listen to me. In 5 minutes, your collar is going to turn off. When that happens, you're going to be at full strength again. I need you to break these chains and protect us. Can you do that? Krator rumbled deeply, a sound that vibrated through Emma's entire body. His eyes blazed with understanding. This creature had been a war prince, a guardian of his people. The chains and collar had kept him weak, but underneath he was still a warrior. Emma climbed onto a stack of crates to reach the control panel for the cargo bay doors. She overrode the locks using a code Jake had given her. The massive doors would open on her command. She kept her finger hovering over the activation button. 4 minutes left. Emma heard footsteps in the corridor outside the bay. Her breath caught. Someone was coming. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Emma held perfectly still, praying they would move on. The door suddenly slid open. 3 security guards stood there, weapons drawn. Behind them was a tall alien with gray skin and black eyes. Velkar, the Torvan agent. Step away from the creature, child, Velkar said in a cold voice. You are interfering with Coalition security. Emma did not move. You're going to kill him. He hasn't done anything wrong. The creature is dangerous salvage that must be disposed of. You do not understand the threat it represents. Velkar gestured to the guards. Take her into custody. 2 guards started toward Emma. Krator roared, a sound so loud and primal that it shook the entire bay. The guards froze. Emma looked at her tablet. 2 minutes left. You know what he really is, Emma said to Velkar. You know he's not just a war beast. He's intelligent. He's the last of his people, and you're afraid of what he might remember. Velkar's black eyes narrowed. Foolish human child. You know nothing of history or politics. That creature's species was destroyed for good reason. They were too dangerous to exist, liar. Emma shouted. Your people killed them. You wanted their technology, and when they wouldn't share, you turned the galaxy against them. Krator is proof of what you did. The Torvan agent's face twisted with anger. Kill them both, he ordered the guards. Make it look like the beast attacked the girl and you had to respond. The guards raised their weapons. 1 minute left. Emma hit the button to open the cargo bay doors. Alarms blared as the massive doors began to slide open, exposing the bay to the main corridor. Now, Katie, Emma screamed into her tablet. For 3 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. The guards' fingers tightened on their triggers. Then the red light on Krator's collar suddenly went dark. The change was instant and terrifying. Krator's 3 eyes blazed like stars. His scales rippled with energy that had been suppressed for weeks. The wounds that Emma had been treating closed completely in seconds as his natural healing abilities surged back to full power. The creature rose to his full height, 20 feet of pure alien strength, and the chains holding him snapped like thread. Krator moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. He swept one massive arm in front of Emma, creating a barrier between her and the guards. The security officers opened fire, but their energy weapons bounced off Krator's scales harmlessly. The Vexnari's armor was designed to withstand military-grade weapons. The war beast roared again and charged forward. The guards scattered. Velkar tried to run, but Krator's tail whipped out and knocked him against the wall. The Torvan agent crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Krator, this way! Emma shouted, running toward the open doors. The creature followed her, moving with predatory grace despite his size. They burst out of Cargo Bay 17 into the main corridor. where dozens of shocked people were staring. Humans and aliens scattered in panic, screaming and running for safety. Emma ran as fast as she could with Crater right behind her. She could hear more security alarms, the sound of boots running, voices shouting orders. The entire station knew now. Their escape was not going to be quiet or subtle. Ben appeared from a side corridor. "This way! I have a path cleared to the docking bays." They ran together through the station's passageways. Ben had sabotaged several emergency doors, leaving them open when they should have sealed. Behind them, Emma could hear the sounds of pursuit. More guards, more weapons fire that bounced off Crater's impenetrable scales. They reached a junction near the docking section. Jake and Lisa were waiting there, both looking terrified but determined. "Katie got caught," Jake said quickly. "Security grabbed her after she disabled the collar. But she bought us time. The shuttle is ready in Bay 12, 2 corridors down." More guards appeared behind them. Crater turned and roared, and the sound made even the bravest soldiers hesitate. Emma saw one of the guards, a young woman who looked barely older than Jake had. The shuttle was small and cramped, designed to carry cargo rather than passengers. But it was fast and had enough fuel to reach the outer rim of the system. Emma strapped herself into the co-pilot seat while Ben powered up the engines. Jake and Lisa squeezed into the back compartment with Crater, who had to curl his massive body into an uncomfortable position to fit. "Everyone hold on," Ben shouted as he fired the engines. The shuttle lurched forward, blasting out of docking bay 12 into open space. Through the viewport, Emma saw Threshold Station growing smaller behind them. She also saw something that made her stomach drop. 3 Torvan warships were moving to intercept, their weapon systems powering up. "Dad, they're going to shoot us." "I see them," Ben said through gritted teeth. His hands flew over the controls, pushing the shuttle to maximum speed. This cargo bucket wasn't designed for combat. "We can't outrun warships." In the back compartment, Crater made a deep rumbling sound. Emma heard Lisa gasp. "He's doing something," Lisa called out. "Some kind of energy is building around him." Emma unbuckled and moved to look. Crater's scales were glowing with a brilliant blue light. The creature had his 3 eyes closed in concentration. Emma realized what was happening. Crater was sending out a signal, using some biological ability that humans did not understand. "It's a distress call," Emma said with sudden certainty. "He's calling for help." "From who?" Jake asked. "His species is extinct." The Torvan warships were getting closer. Warning lights flashed across the shuttle's control panel as targeting systems locked onto them. Ben tried evasive maneuvers, but the shuttle was too slow. They had maybe 30 seconds before the warships opened fire. Then space itself seemed to tear open. A massive ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, appearing between the shuttle and the Torvan warships. It was unlike anything Emma had ever seen. The vessel was organic, grown rather than built, with flowing curves and surfaces that pulsed with the same blue light as Crater's scales. It was easily the size of a city, dwarfing even the Torvan warships. The Torvan ships immediately changed course, fleeing at maximum speed. Whatever this new arrival was, even they were terrified of it. A voice spoke in Emma's mind, not through her ears, but directly into her thoughts. It was warm and ancient, filled with relief and joy. "Guardian, we found you. We thought we had lost you forever." Crater responded with his own mental voice, and Emma could sense the emotional reunion happening. She could not understand the words, but she felt the meaning. Family finding each other after being lost for thousands of years. The massive ship moved alongside their shuttle, and a docking tube extended. A gentle tractor beam guided the small shuttle into a cavernous hangar bay. When they landed and opened the hatch, Emma's group stepped out into a space that looked like a garden mixed with a machine. Walls of living metal curved overhead, covered in bioluminescent plants. The air smelled clean and slightly sweet. Dozens of Vexenari waited in the hangar. They were smaller than Crater, only 10 to 12 feet tall, with scales in different colors: green, silver, deep purple. Some had 4 limbs instead of 6. There was variety in the species that Emma had not expected. Crater stepped out of the shuttle and stood before his people. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the Vexenari surged forward, surrounding their returned guardian with gentle touches and sounds of welcome. Emma saw that several of them were crying, blue tears sliding down scaled faces. An elderly Vexenari approached Emma. This one had silver scales and wise eyes that glowed softly. It spoke in perfect English, its voice gentle despite its size. "I am Elder Shenra. You are the one who saved our guardian." Emma nodded, suddenly feeling very small and very young. My name is Emma Carter. I couldn't let him die alone. Shenra lowered her massive head until she was eye level with Emma. You gave us back something we thought was lost forever. Krator is not just a guardian. He is our last direct link to our home world, the keeper of memories from before the long sleep. When we detected his signal, we could hardly believe it was real. I don't understand, Ben said, stepping forward protectively near his daughter. I thought the Vexenari were extinct. Extinct on our homeworld, yes, Shenra replied sadly. 3,000 years ago, we were betrayed by those we called allies. The Torvin wanted our biotechnology, our ability to grow ships and weapons from living matter. When we refused to share these sacred gifts, they turned the galaxy against us. They spread lies, manipulated politics, and eventually orchestrated a war that destroyed our civilization. The elder Vexenari gestured to the ship around them. But not all of us died. A small number of our people escaped in arc ships like this one. We have been traveling through deep space ever since, staying hidden, afraid to reveal ourselves to a galaxy controlled by those who wanted us dead. We placed guardians in stasis on our homeworld, hoping that someday we could return. When Krator's signal reached us, we knew we had to respond regardless of the danger. Lisa spoke up. How many of you survived? 7 arc ships, Shenra said. Perhaps 50,000 Vexenari total, scattered across different regions of space. We have been searching for each other, trying to rebuild. Krator's signal will help us reunite the remaining arcs. Jake was staring at the living ship in awe. Your technology is incredible. If you shared this with the galaxy, you could change everything. Perhaps, Shenra said. But first, the truth must be revealed. The Torvin cannot be allowed to continue their lies and manipulation. For 3,000 years, they have profited from our destruction, presenting themselves as trustworthy members of the Galactic Coalition while hiding their crimes. Krator approached Emma. The massive war beast lowered himself to the ground so his head was at her height. He rumbled softly and Emma understood. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around his scaled neck in a hug. I'm going to miss you, she whispered. Krator made a questioning sound. Shenra translated. He asked why you would miss him. He wants you to stay with us. You saved his life. You showed compassion when an entire galaxy showed only fear. The Vexenari honor such courage. We would be grateful if you would remain as our guest, as our friend, as a bridge between your species and ours. Emma looked at her father. Ben's face was complicated, full of fear and pride and love. He put his hand on her shoulder. It's your choice. Emma, I can't make it for you. Emma thought about Threshold Station, about the small apartment and the boring school programs and the life that had felt so empty after her mother died. Then she thought about Krator, about adventure and discovery, about being part of something bigger than herself. Can my dad come too? She asked. Shenra's eyes brightened with amusement. Of course. All of you are welcome for as long as you wish to stay. Ben smiled and squeezed Emma's shoulder. Then I guess we're staying. Someone needs to keep you out of trouble. Lisa and Jake agreed to stay as well, at least for a while. They wanted to see what would happen next, to be part of the story that was unfolding. Over the next few weeks, the Vexenari arc ship made contact with humanity's government directly, bypassing the Galactic Coalition. The Vexenari shared evidence of the Torvin conspiracy, ancient records and genetic data that proved what had really happened 3,000 years ago. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Torvin hierarchy tried to deny everything, but more evidence kept appearing. Other species came forward with their own stories of Torvin manipulation. The coalition fractured as member species questioned what else they had been lied to about. The Torvin lost much of their power and influence. Though they remained defiant, humanity and the Vexenari formed a direct alliance, the first major interspecies partnership that existed outside coalition control. The Vexenari offered to share some of their biotechnology, teaching humans how to grow living ships and create sustainable habitats in space. In return, humanity offered the Vexenari what they needed most: a voice in the galaxy, protection through numbers, and a place to finally stop hiding. Emma became something she never expected, a symbol of hope and compassion for multiple species. Her story spread across human space and beyond, the tale of a 12-year-old girl who refused to abandon a suffering creature even when everyone else had given up. Schools taught about her. Diplomats cited her as an example of what humanity could be at its best. But Emma did not care much about fame or recognition. She was too busy exploring the Ark ship with Krator, learning about Vexnari culture, studying their language, and making friends with aliens who had once been thought extinct. Her father worked with Vexnari engineers, combining human mechanical knowledge with Vexnari biotechnology to create amazing new tools. Lisa helped establish medical exchange programs between the species. Jake trained to pilot the living ships, one of the first humans to learn the mental connection required. 6 months after the escape from Threshold Station, Emma stood on the observation deck of the Ark ship with Krator beside her. Through the massive transparent wall, she could see a fleet of human ships approaching, escorted by other Vexnari vessels. First contact between their governments was about to become official. Nervous? Ben asked, standing beside his daughter. A little, Emma admitted. Everything is changing so fast. Krator rumbled softly and lowered his head to bump it gently against